All right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. Let's turn our attention right now to some major international news, as President Trump has said on Tuesday that Israel has agreed to terms for a 60-day ceasefire in Gaza. You can see there in southern Israel looking into Gaza, as well as a live picture right now of Tel Aviv. And this comes ahead of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu being in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C., starting next week. On social media, President Trump announced this, saying, "My representatives had a long and productive meeting with the Israelis today on Gaza. Israel has agreed to the necessary conditions to finalize the 60-day ceasefire, during which time we will work with all parties to end the war. The Qataris and Egyptians, who have worked very hard to help bring peace, will deliver the final proposal. I hope for the good of the Middle East that Hamas takes this deal, because it will not get better. It will only get worse." That on social media from President Trump about this agreement to terms. As a live picture right now, a dark night sky there, viewing into Gaza one more time as the talks continue on. Of course, we've been following this since the beginning of that involvement on October the 7th, 2023. For more on the upcoming meeting between the world leaders, President Trump and Netanyahu, let's take you out to this report from Greg Palcott.
We're going to talk about Gaza.
President Trump will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House next week. The president hoping to broker a hostage release and ceasefire agreement to end the war in Gaza between Israel and Hamas.
These meetings come following the great victory we achieved in Operation Rising Lion. Capitalizing on success is just as important as achieving it.
Israel's 12-day war with Iran also on the agenda. Both leaders expected to push back on skeptics who question the amount of damage done by U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran's nuclear program. President Trump claims Iran's program has been, quote, obliterated, but experts say it may only have been set back a few months.
The place was decimated. It'll be years before anybody even gets down there. So that's not a priority, but we'll have a report and we'll have whatever we want. We'll get whatever we want from Iran.
Talks come as Hamas refuses to lay down arms in Gaza. The terror group saying it will only free hostages if Israeli forces back down and leave the area. But Netanyahu says he'll only end the war if Hamas is disarmed and dismantled. Meanwhile, in Gaza, Israeli airstrikes continue. More than 24 reportedly killed during a strike on a seaside cafe in Gaza City. Hunger also an issue, with dozens of international charities and aid groups calling for the disbanding of the Israeli U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Fund. Critics saying the program is not doing enough to help those in need. But the Humanitarian Fund says it has delivered over 52 million meals in 5 weeks and has called on other groups to join it. In Tel Aviv, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
All right, thank you so much. Several live pictures there in Israel, in Gaza. You can see Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, and in southern Israel, a live look inside of Gaza as Israel agreed to terms to a ceasefire, a 60-day ceasefire. And of course, it feels like we have been in this scenario before, awaiting any decision from Hamas and agreement, but also the follow through on that ceasefire. All right, as we enter a new hour, just about 7 o'clock on the East Coast, we're following the latest in terms of the big, beautiful bill as it crossed a major milestone today as the Senate voted to approve that reconciliation package. A live picture right now there in Washington, D.C. Let's briefly take you out to this House debate on this.